Welcome to the Postmodern Dilemma. This is a channel I have decided to create out of sheer frustration. Frustration directed at the abysmal status of modern society in the United States. I no longer can sit around idly thinking about this to myself or venting to friends in my family. I want to share my message to a wider audience, and so here we are. For my metaphorical cold opening, I'd like to kick things off talking about one of the most concerning threats I see in the West these days. This being the effect of social media on the common sense, intelligence, and mindset of the youth. My primary target of criticism will be everyone's favorite current social media platform, good old TikTok. Before we get started, I will say that this video and channel at large will carry political undertones. I am an inherently political person, and as they say, politics is downstream of culture. I will not outright say what exactly my overall political leanings are, but I will let my words paint a picture for you. Basically, I don't care what you believe, who you vote for, or who you dislike. I just want you to hear me out. Let's begin by adding some weight behind my intuitions before I even say anything. I don't think anyone will disagree with me that social media has had a vastly negative consequence on a societal level, not just for kids, but for everyone. Sure, there have been benefits to this overly connected world we now live in, but let's talk about the bad. According to Pew Research Center, in 2021, 97% of US citizens owned a cell phone, 85% owning specifically a smartphone. This gives them direct and almost constant access to social media. According to Pew Research again, a survey of US adults taken in the summer of 2020 showed that 64% of respondents believe that social media has had a negative effect on the way things are currently going in the US. According to a study of over 6,500 US adolescents by JAMA Psychiatry, adolescents who spend more than 3 hours per day using social media may be at heightened risk for mental health problems, particularly internalizing dilemmas. According to the Open Psychology Journal, there is potentially a relationship between problematic internet use and later development of narcissistic personality traits. According to a survey of 62 adults on SpringerLink, there is an average loss of 9.285% productivity on a daily basis due to social media use in the workplace. And finally, according to the Queen's University Journal, Gen Z's attention span is shortening thanks to social media, with an inability to focus creeping into all aspects of their lives. As an example, the percentage of children who read has dropped from 35% to just 17% since 1985. Okay, so there's some data. This is just grazing the surface, and obviously these studies are not the law or perfectly representative of the whole US, but they do seem to be painting a repeating picture. That picture, it seems, is that excessive social media use does have consequences. Now, I'm going to start focusing on the youth and injecting both politics and personal opinion into this. Right now, the US is in bad shape education-wise. We fall behind on pretty much every metric in secondary education when compared to other countries. Our courses don't teach the right stuff, and our students score subpar results when their knowledge is tested. This is obviously partly the fault of government-run education itself. There's a severe lack of quality teachers out there, especially in critically important subjects like STEM. On top of this, US schools are currently under political siege, being loaded with teachers and curricula that prioritize activism over practical knowledge and critical thinking skills. To make matters worse, this is being encouraged by the highest levels of the government and hidden from parents' prying eyes. Don't believe me? Well, maybe I'll elaborate more another day. This is a whole different topic, and I don't want to deviate too much. What we are here for is the other reason for the sorry state of US education, which I believe is social media addiction in the youth. Let's finally talk TikTok and, based upon it, the rise of short-form content. Above, in the statistics lineup, I chose to show data demonstrating the drop in attention span seen in Gen Z. As a relatively young individual myself, teetering the line of millennial and Gen Z, I can attest to this personally. Let's entertain a question here. What should we suppose happens when a child spends hours upon hours a day consuming internet-based content on a tiny phone screen in 1 to 5 minute bursts? Much of this content, by the way, is banal, hedonistic, materialistic, and hyper-secularized. Well, I say what could happen is said child undoubtedly loses the ability to hold attention when needed to absorb large bundles of information. This includes school lessons and socio-political concepts. I believe that by allowing young kids to be hooked onto TikTok, citizens of the US and wider West are allowing the minds of kids to turn into metaphorical mush. In the long run, they will be unable to digest large pieces of information, unable to think critically, and be painfully prone to ideological manipulation. I myself have growing issues reading long books, watching longer videos, and even paying attention in general, ever since I started spending so much time on the internet. Now, I'm older and aware of this issue, so I can keep it somewhat in check. But I'm willing to bet a school-age child most likely cannot. Let's dig deep on TikTok specifically. TikTok is owned by a Chinese company called ByteDance, and China is ran in lockstep by the Chinese Communist Party, better known as the CCP. I don't think I will get any headshakes of disagreement here when I say the CCP is not a good entity. They commit all sorts of atrocities on the daily, which I probably can't even say here, which is a topic for another video. They are also heavily involved in the businesses of their country, including ByteDance. In fact, many claim that specific CCP government officials even work as executives at ByteDance. Because of this, the CCP can tailor TikTok to be however they want it to be, to influence both their own citizens and, more importantly, citizens of the West. I haven't poked around on CCP-run TikTok to find out myself, but it's said by many online that it's heavily regulated to show enriching, empowering, and educational content. Content that promotes learning, nationalism, and harmony for Chinese citizens. Now, how much of this is propaganda? Who's to say? But what we can assume is that the content they are showing on Chinese TikTok is, indeed, better for the Chinese populace. But it would seem, unfortunately, as if Western TikTok is regulated in a much different, hyper-partisan way than Chinese TikTok. A way that allows only certain slacktivist messages, as well as vapid, hedonistic, intellectually dishonest, emotionally manipulative junk to reign supreme in the algorithms. I probably don't have to elaborate much on this for anyone who has spent any amount of time on TikTok, and even something like YouTube Shorts. It's just a whole lot of nothing. Mindless, anti-enriching content, or hyper-polarized political agenda that goes very obviously in one direction. A direction, I believe, is negatively affecting the minds of children and society as a whole. So, how does this tie into the education system and children's performance? Well, let's entertain another question. How do we suppose kids will perform well in school, especially concerning complex subjects like mathematics, when they spend most of their free time online watching people twerk, or obsessively spouting dogma such as how we're all supposedly going to incinerate by 2030 due to single-digit increases in global temperature? Simply put, the minds of the youth are being filled up with gunk that is preventing them from thinking about much else. Whether it be, pointless gunk, political gunk, fear-mongering gunk, it's all just nonsense. I'd say at this point, we have a pretty good picture for the point of this video. But I'm not done yet. Next, I want to discuss how I feel social media is destroying kids' aspirations to do anything worthwhile, and instead, convincing them all to be self-centered and materialistic clout chasers. Social media in the West, from what I can tell, is mostly just people flexing their wealth and credentials onto other people at this point, maybe even offering their divine wisdom and experience while they're at it. There are definitely great entertainers and academic minds out there, such as Jordan Peterson or Markiplier, who I genuinely respect. But for every diamond in the rough, it seems like there are dozens of impractical nobodies who all rose to fame by getting lucky and gaining enough wealth and clout to have eyes on them. They often don't even offer anything of substance to their audiences, just windows into their lives of decadence and maybe their out-of-touch political opinions. It doesn't help that the soulless corporations running social media, and some might even say Western governments, promote these useless individuals through algorithmic manipulation and heavy-handed censorship of ideas they don't like. Again, that's a whole different topic for a whole nother video. But the point still stands. Social media is dominated by content that is either mindless court-chestering or one-sided political dogma. How are children supposed to flourish and turn into mature, inquisitive adults with aspirations of grandeur when all they ever see on their screens is people eating bread or filming their dog as an influencer or millionaires sitting in front of a podcast mic preaching nonsense? How about when they are being told by so many voices that the system is bad and broken and that everything needs to be torn down? I really believe social media has destroyed the desire to learn and be something better in the youth, the desire to be something better than themselves. They all just want to be accepted with no value, at face value, and be famous TikTokers. And that doesn't require good grades in school, does it? I have some data to back this point up, since it is an important one. According to a study done by LEGO, spotlighted on CNBC, children's top career aspirations in the US and UK as of 2019 are 1. Vlogger/YouTuber, 2. Teacher, 3. Professional athlete, 4. Musician, and 5. Astronaut. According to the same study, children's top career aspirations in China as of 2019 are 1. Astronaut, 2. Teacher, 3. Musician, 4. Professional athlete, and 5. Vlogger/YouTuber. I want everyone to think real hard about the implications of the above. I think it speaks for itself. To me, it seems like Western children think the amount of likes you get on a TikTok commands more respect than going to the moon. And I'd say that is not something to be proud of. It may come as a surprise to no one that social media isn't the best for developing practical social skills, ironically enough. Most of it these days doesn't even require interaction with other people. When someone is interacting with others online, though, they are doing it from behind the comfort of their computer screen, allowing them to be as hostile, unintelligent, or uninformed as they want, with no immediate fear of consequences. Has anyone ever heard the term keyboard warrior? When you know, you know. Anyway, how can we expect children to do well in school if their social skills, which are a pretty important part of learning, have been eviscerated into anxiety-laced ribbons? Spending all day posting online in a desperate attempt to make their opinions heard or gain notoriety, hiding anonymously from the tangible world. This does no good for even adults. Imagine what it must do to emotionally developing and notoriously insecure young teens. Well, how about when we mix in dogmatic political and cultural messaging that stokes anxieties and makes people angry? The worldwide lockdowns experienced from 2020 to 2022 made all of these issues even worse. Yes, I didn't say pandemic. The virus did not do this. Government and corporate choice did. They chose to lock us all down. Kids were locked in their homes like prisoners, forced to carry out their educational duties on a computer screen in Zoom, where they could easily just zone out or play games. When they tuned into any news or social media, they were inundated with intense fear-mongering, shaming, and anger on full display. Really, it was just 2 years of people being at their absolute worst. I can only imagine the level of damage this did to kids in the West in terms of their social skills and educations. All in all, having no social skills, and further, no critical thinking skills, will do serious harm if you're trying to learn from and with others, say in a classroom setting. Social media does the youth no favors here. Look, I could go on and on about this topic, as it is a loaded subject that keeps developing day by day, and I don't think anything's getting better. But I don't want to deviate too far from the beaten path of education in the West. To summarize everything I just hoisted off my chest, I believe the education system in the US, and honestly the West as a whole, is failing largely due to social media addiction. Specifically, the youth of the West are losing their attention spans and critical thinking skills due to constant short-form content consumption, losing their aspirations to do well in school and succeed in life due to the useless, materialistic, and politically hopeless nature of social media, and suffering declining social skills due to less face-to-face interactions and more parasocial relationships formed with out-of-touch influencers. Making this video has been an absolute pleasure for me, as I've been wanting to get so much off my chest for so long now. Expect more from me on this channel in the near future. There's much more to be said about the decline of the West. Like and subscribe if you're interested in hearing more of my takes. This was a snapshot into the first puzzle piece of the Postmodern Dilemma. See you later.